Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame.
Welcome to the Heel to the Face podcast.
And this right here,
with your hosts, Jared Wicks, Brandon Icebreaker Clements, and Paul Boy Green Esden.
It doesn't matter what your name is. And that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so. Best there is, the best there was, or the best there ever will be.
Brett screwed Brett because it's what's best for business.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. The champ is here. Oh yeah, new day rock. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya.
Tweet us using the handle @HeelToTheFace.
Woo! Let's get ready to suck it.
The bell is rung, so let's step in the ring with your hosts, Paul, Brandon, and Jared.
I might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
Heel the Face podcast is on the air. We continue our road to WrestleMania. We're on the road right now to Elimination Chamber and Fastlane as we're coming to you live from Syracuse, New York for yet another week of the Heel to the Face podcast. We are joined as always with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Myself, Jared Wicks. You can find me on Twitter at Jared Wicks. And most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face. That's where we are on Twitter. That's where you can find the uploads for the show on YouTube, on Spreaker, as well as our Tweets of the Week, Twitter question of the week, and the show itself. So without any further ado, let's get to this week.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening
with a 20-minute time limit.
So when you watched the Royal Rumble a couple weeks ago, it was billed as 30 men. And after tonight, we are going to be narrowed down to the one man who is going to main event WrestleMania. Well, a few weeks later, we decided, no, it's going to be more like 12 men are still in the running for WrestleMania, not counting the current champion, AJ Styles. Yes. 11 men still have a shot to go to the main event as WrestleMania. And more importantly, they have a shot to go to the main event as WrestleMania on one side as champion, and then there's 7 men on one side who still have a shot to go. That would essentially be the Royal Rumble comparison because, well, Shinsuke Nakamura was the one man who outlasted 30. Now we're waiting for 7 men who now have a shot to get to the main event as well. And more importantly, the shot to face Brock Lesnar.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it takes away from the, je ne sais quoi, as Paul likes to say, of the actual match itself, the Royal Rumble? Like, to me, now you have like half the roster is like wrestling. For a chance.
It doesn't just take away from the Royal Rumble. I think it takes away from the WrestleMania main event. I mean, it should have a little more importance, and more importantly for Shinsuke Nakamura, the fact that they're giving us, we got to assume they're giving us AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. So why are you wasting the Raw main event inside the Elimination Chamber to determine the number one contender is a little more compelling. Because that is still, I mean, obviously a lot of people say it's going to be Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, but a little bit of that is still up in the air. A lot of people are starting to throw out maybe they're going to put Seth Rollins, maybe make it a triple threat because he was involved in the main event when those guys faced at WrestleMania 31.
What about Finn Balor?
People are saying maybe it could be a fatal 4-way. Finn Balor in there.
Come on now.
See, there's a little more intrigue. But it feels like we're going to get AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yes.
I mean, they already sent out the tweets like moments after he won the Rumble with the WrestleMania logo in the background. So this fatal 5-way for the championship seems a little bit not just hollow because we kind of already know who's going to win, but it's not just we already know who's going to win, but we don't want it any other way. It could only just screw it up. It's not like we already know who's going to win in the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar sense. We don't want an alternative. We don't want it to be anything but AJ Styles versus Shinsuke.
Yeah, Styles and Nakamura, that's the way to go. Simple as that.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, right now, we're already done. We're already done on the Smackdown side.
They need to find something else. I like it in the past when they've had these in-between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania pay-per-views where they've had maybe like a tag team match for the main event, like a Survivor Series kind of match. They've had it before. I remember WrestleMania 23. It was Undertaker versus Batista for one title, John Cena, Shawn Michaels for the other. So they kind of did they tagged up. Undertaker tagged up with John Cena to take on Batista and Shawn Michaels. It might have been in reverse. I'm not sure. It might have been Undertaker and Batista teaming up. They've done that before where the WrestleMania main event, and for example, that was a main event. John Cena, I think it was John Cena and Shawn Michaels actually teamed up because I remember they went to WrestleMania 23 as tag team champions.
I think so.
They were tag team champions despite the fact that they were facing each other in the main event. So, there's a little more of that kind of all-star game thing you can do before WrestleMania. You know, like the NFL has the Pro Bowl. They don't
whoa, don't do that. The Pro Bowl sucks.
But the idea is that before WrestleMania, they don't make Tom Brady if he's going to play in the Super Bowl. They don't make any of the players play that are going to play in the Super Bowl. They don't make any of the teams that are going to the Super Bowl have to put it up on the line at the Pro Bowl. It's kind of like a shot to have fun on the way to WrestleMania, but our WrestleMania main events stay intact. So they should do something. You know, I like how the Elimination Chamber, you know, it's a number one contender match. The title's not on the line.
It's a great match.
I mean, Brock Lesnar does it, for example. Brock Lesnar could be defending the title. What's stopping him from defending? He doesn't have a WrestleMania match. They could make him defend the title, but they're trying to keep the intrigue of he left the Royal Rumble as champion, and WWE goes by the storyline of it. Once you leave Royal Rumble, you're on the road to WrestleMania. So next stop WrestleMania. So they're keeping him with Brock Lesnar, not making him have to defend the title.
You know we're not talking about that we're really underselling at this point. There is a chance that The Miz could hold both titles. How awesome is that?
Yeah, I know he let off Raw this past week, kind of indicating that he could do that. But as John Cena, I don't like to agree with John Cena, but I mean, we remember WrestleMania 27 is not a good WrestleMania.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. The thing that people are overlooking is you still have the Miz Taraj. So regardless of what we think of Brock Lesnar potentially facing the Miz, you can't discount the fact that the Miz has the Miz Taraj who can do enough distractions to, throw the Beast Incarnate, off his game a little bit. Don't you think? I mean, I think that would in that scenario, I think that gives Miz yes, there's always a fighting chance, but I think it gives him a pretty good chance at that point. I wouldn't say it's a slam dunk victory, but I think it gives him a little bit of a better chance than if he was by himself. For sure.
Yes. I don't think it's the match itself that it would be bad. I think it's the hype. It takes me back. I remember you remember WWE. Everyone played WWE video games when they were a child.
Absolutely.
I played WWE video games. Now I'm not too familiar. I don't play too many of them anymore. But I know that their artificial intelligence has gotten better in the sense of when you do a story mode. It's kind of more realistic. Tag teams are more realistic to what they would be kind of storylines. But I remember playing one of the first Smackdown game, and I went into a story mode. And it didn't really have any artificial intelligence, so it would make the pay-per-view cards, and it would just kind of scramble up all the guys. And I remember, the main event of WrestleMania 16 would be Road Dogg versus X-Pac. And you're like, that would not actually happen. Because it didn't know who was a bigger, more, it didn't know how to stack the card appropriately. Yeah. It just would be if you're not in a match, it would follow you, and then all the other matches would just be scrambled up names. Like if you play a basketball or football game, whatever team you're not, the other teams win or lose just randomly. Mm-hmm. It's not really based on intelligence. Maybe the new Maddens are intelligent, the Patriots are good, the Browns are bad. But back in the day, it would just be random. So I remember, and that's what kind of the Miz in the main event of WrestleMania seems to me. It's not exactly just about the match. I just don't feel Vince McMahon wants the Miz versus Brock. I mean, he's done crazy things with Miz versus John Cena.
Vince is he is a very staunch supporter of the Miz, and we saw it a
couple years ago, WrestleMania 27.
Sell it like this: the mouthpiece versus the Beast, because he's the best talker in the business, and you got the Beast. That you could sell that, because the Miz right now is on fire. This really could be the year of Miz. It really could, because they're going to
better than when he was. He main evented WrestleMania 27 and left there as champion.
I still think.
That's why it's held up there as one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. And I don't feel.
But the thing is, that was years ago when Miz really. He's leaps and bounds from where he was. Is he leaps and bounds though when you think of with people really considering him a main eventer? Back then, no. Yes. Today, yes. Today, yes. Today, I think he's a main eventer. Why wouldn't he be? He's entertaining. He's entertaining. He puts on good matches. He's always going to do something sketchy to win a match. And to me, he's one of the best. I would say he's one of the better heels in the business right now. To be honest with you. So you're kind of on a streak of giving us hot takes every single week. Your hot take, you would want to see Brock Lesnar versus The Miz for the Universal Championship versus other options. If it was my choice, Finn Balor gets eliminated out of the Elimination Chamber. I was gonna say take Finn Balor out. Take Finn Balor. Finn's my guy. Finn's my guy, so he would be my first choice. We've seen the Roman Reigns thing play out. Let's say it even got down to John Cena versus The Miz. I want The Miz. You want The Miz? because we've seen John Cena over
I
and
know.
over.
It's hard for me to say I want to see The Miz in the main event of WrestleMania.
And don't forget, and as Miz pointed out correctly, John Cena was the first member of Suplex City. If we don't, he was like just like
I remember that.
Just like
when
year,
they started to rebuild Brock Lesnar to what he is now.
Just about 1 year ago today, we started our inaugural show. By the way, I went back at the archives. We've been doing the show almost. I think it's just over a year now. I think this will be our 1 year, close to our 1 year anniversary. So speaking of that, inaugural member of Suplex City was John Cena. We've seen it. Go to the movie. Like I like John Cena. Go to the movies. But I'm telling you right now, it's probably going to be Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. That's probably what we're going to get. We're going to get it forced down our throats. I love Roman Reigns, but it's been played out. I want to see something different. Like, I would like to see Finn Balor as my first option.
I would love to see, Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar.
Miz is number 2 for me.
Finn Balor, Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, triple threat.
I mean, Seth Rollins for me, I would put Miz over Seth Rollins right now.
You would put Miz over.
I would.
If it was a one-on-one match and you had a chance of Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar,
I'm taking the Miz. I'm taking the Miz, not from a, Seth is more of a technician in the ring, but I think I would think that would be the Miz and Brock. I think that would be entertaining.
Now remember, Seth Rollins never got a chance to get his title back.
And here's the thing: Finn Balor never lost.
Yeah, I'm
just saying.
Finn Balor is also deserving of having a moment because he won the belt and lost it.
That's
or
who
had
I'm
to
picking.
Relinquish it.
That's who I'm picking. I mean, we'll get to the. Obviously, that's we're a couple weeks out. That's who I will be picking to win that match because as a fan, I'm a big Balor Club guy. So Finn Balor, that's my guy. So I do want to see him in, but it would be intriguing to see the Miz. And I will say this
in this Fatal 5-Way. Finish up your point.
I was going to say the Miz and Cena's match was really good. That was a good match.
Yeah,
I was very happy.
I'm not saying Miz doesn't put on good matches. It's just it's the poster. I'm just thinking of that's what WrestleMania is all about.
Yeah, but he's Mr. Hollywood. Remember, he's Mr. Hollywood.
I guess you can find a way to spin it any way to make it considerable main event.
Miz is money right now. He's getting his own spin-off reality show with his wife. And here's the other thing: they can really hype up, which they've already used in storylines, where he's going to have this newfound aggression because he's going to be a father type of thing. You know what I mean? They're gonna use that. And I think that
fighting for the family.
Yes.
He's fighting to put food on the table.
You could see this, and that's why this is why he has the Miztourage, where maybe he's more. He does even more tricks. He has more tricks up his sleeve to do what he has to do, whether it's dirty. Like Ric Flair is the dirtiest player in the game of all time. That's when we won't disagree there. But Miz right now is the dirtiest player in WWE right now, and he will pull out all the stops. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he did something really, a cheap shot, a low blow or something to beat Brock Lesnar. I could see something. That's the way it would finish in my book. There's no way Miz beats Brock clean.
So let's move to that Fatal 5-Way. Do you see any solution or any alternative to AJ Styles? If AJ Styles was to lose, I would be very devastated. But is there anything that would maybe lessen the blow if AJ Styles was to lose? Anybody else in it?
No.
What are they doing with Dolph Ziggler? That's a good question right there. Forget if he just won. That would be just random out of place.
Dolph, I expect Dolph, reading the financial stuff about his new contract, he's getting paid top guy money. So I am not going to be surprised if we see a big Ziggler push in 2018. You don't pay somebody top dollar. They released, his information on how much he's going to be getting on this new contract.
What was the deal with Dolph? Like, what was that all about? He came in, he dropped the title, and then he just needed vacation? It's like they never mentioned it since.
And here's, this
was supposed to be a big hype. I thought this was Dolph Ziggler was going to return to go back for the U.S. title, set up, Dolph Ziggler versus Bobby Roode, which could still happen, but they haven't kind of kept him a recluse. They haven't kept him away until he returns and
here's
retakes the belt.
There was rumors out there that he had like 2 feet out the door type of deal, and then like at the 11th hour, so to speak, that WWE made an offer he couldn't refuse.
They should have done like a CM Punk style.
That's actually incorrect. A lot, and the more recent reports that are more that are from more trusted sources that I've seen online, they're saying Dolph wasn't going anywhere. He was just taking a little sabbatical. That's what I read. And and then at that point, WWE knows what his worth is, and they didn't want to leave it the chance where he could go to the indie circuit and maybe do the Cody Rhodes thing. They made sure Ziggler is paid. He's getting paid very well. He's going to be one of the top paid stars in WWE. Simple as that. So you know what that means. You don't pay somebody the money he's getting and you leave him at mid-card. That's stupid. He's gonna get a push.
But you got to explain this style, what he did, dropping the belt, walking out, and then disappearing for a while. I think it's ignore it.
I think it's I mean,
they've ignored things before.
They've done that before. Creative has. I think it's just one of those things where he needed it literally was a sabbatical where he just took some time off. Like, how Sheamus does that. Sheamus goes back to Ireland for a little bit, and then he'll take 2 weeks. Yeah, he took 2 weeks not too long ago, and he goes home. I think for Ziggler, it was just a time for him to catch his breath and check his options out. Sometimes maybe we don't know. Maybe he had some lingering injuries that he just needed a break and heal up. We don't know. But I'm thinking it was just a sabbatical. I don't think there's too much to read into it.
So we got some breaking news. I wish we had that bulletin music, like for breaking news. Coming straight from WWE today on this February the 15th that we're reporting this. Rich Swann has been released from WWE. The headline should have read, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but Rich Swann was not yet released from WWE."
Yeah, why wasn't he gone in the first place? That was the plan. And what do we wait for then?
And what's really strange about this, I guess, is the fact that the charges have been dropped. So they wait when he's accused of it.
You wait for due process, but you still do what you were probably going to do in the first place.
So why? Yeah.
What's the point? Stupid.
Why? That's what I'm saying. It's not just that he was. It's one thing if they wait for due process and then he was found guilty, then they release him. You do like an Enzo, because now that'd be weird if you kept Enzo on this whole time. Let it cool down. Let people forget about it, and then release him after he's been found innocent.
Yeah, just kind of let it it's like in the old newspaper, it's like in page 5 and like a little box somewhere. Yeah, just kind of slide it in, so to speak. I get it.
That might answer the question we had here a while ago, if we're ever going to see Rich Swann in WWE again. And
the answer is no.
I think no, because now that he's innocent and if he showed up on 205 Live, people wouldn't be that upset or offended, and yet they still fired him.
Yeah, obviously they didn't want him there in the first place, so this was a good reason to fire him. Or release him. However nicely you have to put it.
So other rumors going on. Potential WWE Hall of Fame candidate for 2018 this year so far. We got Goldberg, the Dudley Boys, Ivory. But this one's right on the table. Some rumor mills are throwing this around. What do you think about this one now that he's officially away from all of his Impact, Global Force Wrestling, and had recently checked into WWE-sponsored rehab, Jeff Jarrett? What would you make of Jeff Jarrett going into the WWE Hall of Fame? I mean, obviously, he's not on horrible terms with WWE, because since getting rid of being away from Global Force Wrestling and Impact Wrestling and that whole venture that he had, WWE sponsored his rehab. So there obviously is some sort of relationship.
They're obviously good enough, or if they're going to take care of him like that.
Yeah. So and we hear they don't take care of people. It's strange when you hear that an ex-employee like Jeff Jarrett's getting WWE-sponsored rehab, but yet you hear all these horror stories about current employees getting shafted when it comes to medical, conditions or bills,
what the infamous Rob Van Dam, where it's called the marijuana tax, where you get they have a drug testing policy, you just get fined. So it's like people still smoke pot in WWE. Like Rob Van Dam's very well known. He goes on Twitter at 420 and says, kind of like time to light up type of deal. And he's one of those people where there was this thing called the marijuana tax. It was because there's some superstars out there, indie wrestlers and whatnot. There's a guy, I forget his name off the top of my head. He's actually from upstate New York, I believe. I think he's from I want to say Saratoga Springs, maybe. I'm trying to remember his name, but he's an ex MMA guy. And he's very well, he got kicked out of UFC for multiple failed drug tests because
You're talking about John Bone Jones?
No,
okay.
Not Bones.
Okay.
No, he was a lesser known, but he was in UFC. He was more of a prospect there.
Gotcha.
And he got booted after failing in multiple drug tests for pot. So he took his talents to the indie wrestling scene. He's one of the most sought after indie wrestlers out there. Forget his name off the top of my head. Please forgive me for it.
It's kind of funny that you bring this up, because Vice Sports this week did a story with indie wrestler, a guy who's making around. Indie wrestler is a term in which he makes money. He said he makes 6 figures in this interview. He did an interview with Vice Sports. Matt Rydell did an interview with Vice Sports where he talked about how he's an avid marijuana smoker.
That's who it is. That's who it is.
Okay, all right.
That's who it is.
So
I'm like, wait. I'm like thinking about. I'm like, no, that's it. That's the guy.
Current professional wrestler making six figures, traveling the world. He's been in Evolve and a bunch of stuff like that.
He goes to the UK, comes back, does a show in the States. Works out for a
but
couple
he
days and
did
goes around.
say that if the price was right to join WWE, despite the fact that he's an avid marijuana smoker, he says he would quit. And he said he currently uses it as a substitute for pain medications and other stuff, but that he would quit because he said alcohol is still legal, so he'd find another way to have fun. So my question is he using it to have fun, or is he using it as a medication process? Because if WWE, if they want, they would make him work more, so he would need more pain relief in that sense.
I think, and you know what, I not to get too far off to the the marijuana thing, but to me, I think it's a safer alternative than these popping pills. That's just that's my stance on it. So I think you're going to see in the next 10 years, you're going to see a lot of not only like WWE, you're going to see pro sports like the NBA, the NFL. I think you're going to see in 10 years they're going to lessen their stance, their hardcore stance on marijuana, because it's actually better than getting shot up with cortisone. It's proven to be a safer alternative, and it's actually it's healthier, I guess is the best way to say it. That's why he does it, because he has issues where he doesn't want to get hooked on medication. He's like, I'll smoke a joint, whatever it is, and he can function where he doesn't have these issues that he has. So for me, give it a few years, and I think marijuana is not going to be a huge deal in WWE or for sports in general.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for our segment 1. Marijuana in WWE and not as big a deal. That's not your hot take, though. Your hot take, we'll wrap up the segment, is The Miz and Brock Lesnar, New Orleans, in the same place Brock Lesnar defeated the Streak. Can he defeat The Miz at WrestleMania 34?
The Miz is going to win, baby, if that happens.
So that wraps up segment number 1. When we return, our Twitter question of the week and our tweets of the week, as you're listening to the Heel of Face podcast on Sports War Radio, Rat Pack Radio, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on YouTube.
The New York Jets are rising and are ready to compete in the AFC. Boy Green and Ty Butler will give you everything you need to know about the Jets every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. From reviewing the previous game and looking ahead to the next matchup, to all of the news and 4 downs, the Jet Zone has everything. Follow @BoyGreen25 and @TyDButler on Twitter. Proud member of Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
This program is simulcast on WRPR Rat Pack Radio. Go to ratpacksports.com for more information.
Do you want to stay up to date on the latest sports news? Come check out After the Whistle from 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday night. We talk about the NHL, we talk about the NFL, we talk about the MLB. You name it, we got it. Tune in on Sports War Radio.
Now is the time to get your voice heard. Sports War Radio is now accepting applications for driven and knowledgeable sports fans who want to start their very own podcast about their favorite team. Sports War Radio has an international audience and is growing fast. Don't miss the chance to become the go-to news source for your favorite team. Email sportswarradio@gmail.com and tell us why you would be a great addition to our team. Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
Now is the time to get your voice heard. Sports War Radio is now accepting applications for driven and knowledgeable sports fans who want to start their very own podcast about their favorite team. Sports War Radio has an international audience and is growing fast. Don't miss the chance to become the go-to news source for your favorite team. Email sportswarradio@gmail.com and tell us why you would be a great addition to our team. Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
Let's get back to the action. This is the Heel to the Face podcast on Sports War Radio.
It's a good tune.
Yeah.
I like that. A little Goldberg to come back.
Heel to the Face podcast back on the air. And it is time for our social media segments of the week. We start things off with our Twitter question of the week. So our Twitter question of the week comes from the fact that many rumor mills have had this following WrestleMania, including maybe even at Backlash, a draft or a superstar shakeup itself, that the WWE is going to make all pay-per-views dual-branded following WrestleMania.
This is a step in the right direction. Remember, I was saying this not too long ago that we should, combine. This is a step in the right direction because I want to see the brands all together. But I like this. This is a positive step. They must have heard the podcast. So kudos to you, WWE.
So where I go with this, it's quite the opposite to Brandon here.
I know.
I
it
vote.
Usually is.
The votes were love it or hate it. 75% are in the majority of Brandon saying love it.
Yes.
I'm in the minority. The odd couple here.
Of course.
I hate it. And believe me.
Why? Why do you hate it? Come on. It's good shit.
If the brands are going to stay separate. Now, if they're coming all together, that's a different story. But if you're going to keep the brand extension alive, I want them to have separate shows. And here is why. Here's why I feel that way. Look at what we have coming up right now. We have the Elimination Chamber, and we have Fastlane. Now, if WWE goes the route of just having one pay-per-view between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, I might be on board. But if we are still going to have Fastlane and the Elimination Chamber, quote-unquote, that would be two pay-per-views before WrestleMania, because it really is considered one, because it's one for each brand, then that's too much. We don't have time to build up stories. Then we would have stories going into Elimination Chamber, then we'd have 2 weeks to build stories, and they just wouldn't be pay-per-view quality. I just don't feel that we would have.
Yeah, but do you really need months and months to build something?
Well, right now we have
it keeps it fresh.
While we have two quote-unquote pay-per-views on the horizon, we really have one because each brand is promoting just one. If SmackDown and Raw were promoting Elimination Chamber, and then SmackDown and Raw afterwards, meaning they haven't started promoting Fastlane yet, then Elimination Chamber would end. Then we have 2 weeks. Then the road to WrestleMania gets really mucked up with way too. AJ Styles, what do you got to defend his belt again? Defends it at two pay-per-views before WrestleMania, and there's a few of these times where we have a pay-per-view, let's say 2 weeks apart from each other, and I feel in that sense, if you're going to keep the brands separate, there's just too many. If you're going to get rid of pay-per-views, then I'm fine with it. But if you're going to keep the amount of pay-per-views we have, we can't have them just all on every show.
It keeps it fresh, though.
Yeah, but if AJ Styles is defending his belt, or Raw Roman Reigns is on 14 pay-per-views, it's too much. We already have too many pay-per-views.
I love how you use Roman Reigns. I know you're the biggest Roman Reigns hater. First off, I get it. He gets shoved down people's throats.
Raw
the fans,
is already 3
it.
hours plus 3 hours and 20 minutes.
3 hours,
sometimes.
15, 20 minutes. Yes.
Okay. So then if we have a pay-per-view, like the gap, we had one pay-per-view in December. So, the Raw guys could have been on the, Clash of Champions. That would have been fine because we had a lot of gap. But if Raw also had a pay-per-view in December, and then we had two pay-per-views in December, then that's too much.
I don't... for me,
if we roll the clock around to next February, we have one pay-per-view and then WrestleMania. We have No Way Out. That was the best. That was the pay-per-view they should have kept.
If it affects the quality, then yes, then it's too much. But I think it keeps things from getting stale. To me, like sometimes you just got to keep the iron hot. That's the way I look at it too. I get it. Like I'm one of those people. I want to see Raw back at 2 hours, like it was. But with pay-per-views, I mean that's supposed to be your for me growing up, pay-per-views were like, oh man, it was an event.
They were once a month. They weren't once every 2 weeks.
What else? You got to sell the WWE
So they're not
Network.
an event if they're every 2 weeks.
But you still have to sell the WWE Network. You still have to sell it, and it's about making money too. You got to think about it that way too.
I have a solution to this, and this is crazy. But Vince, if you're listening right now, or if anybody can get this out to Vince, I'm asking you, take my $9.99 a month and give me less for it. And here, let me explain.
Oh my God, come on!
This is what I want to see. Now that we have the WWE Network, now that we have, pay-per-views at our fingertips, I'm actually okay because WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, these pay-per-views are still delivering. What I would like to see, go back to 2016, right before WrestleMania 32, when we had the regular pay-per-view, and then they had the WWE special, if you will, Roadblock. It was a house show, but it had 1 or 2 hyped matches. If you remember Saturday Night Main Event back in the day, back when they didn't have 12 pay-per-views a year, they threw Saturday Night Main Events in there. And what Saturday Main Events were, they were Monday Night Raws, they were just house shows, but they had 1 or 2 hyped matches. That's what I want to see. I want to see the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and maybe even Money in the Bank, because I know we're not getting back King of the Ring. So maybe have 5 real pay-per-views a year. Which is a mistake, by the way. King of the Ring should be back. I agree. So have 5 real pay-per-views of the year, dual branded, everybody on the show, and then between there, have, like, for example, in the end of April, end of May, for all those pay-per-views, make them like Roadblock was. Roadblock was, the main event was Dean Ambrose versus Triple H. Now, Triple H was going on to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, but they had him face Dean Ambrose, and then Brock Lesnar was in action as well, so it was kind of like a special attraction. They've done this as well. What was it? Brock Lesnar took on Big Show at Madison Square Garden. They weren't pay-per-views, they're WWE Network exclusives. Kind of what Starrcade should have been. We still won't know why. Yeah, they dropped the ball on that one. And that's what I think all the middle pay-per-views should be. They should be house shows, maybe even have the house show set, have them at the house show arenas, like what you'd have a house show on a Sunday night, so a smaller arena helps you hype up the Barclays Center, makes the Barclays Center look like AT&T Stadium in Dallas when the in-between pay-per-views are at smaller little arenas. Dim the light, and have 1 or 2 hyped matches. The rest can be just, it'd be a 2-hour show. What In Your House pay-per-views were originally, when they came out in 1995, what they were the pay-per-view replacement for Saturday Main Event. They were Shawn Michaels will defend the belt against Kevin Nash, but the other matches are just kind of like special attractions. They didn't have 3.5-hour pay-per-views. They were only about an hour and a half. The original In Your House pay-per-views were only an hour and a half because they didn't want to take away from WrestleMania. They didn't want to take away from Royal Rumble. They were just 1 match, maybe 2 matches at best that were hyped up, and then everything else was what Roadblock was. Roadblock was a couple NXT guys, a couple special little appearances, but it was like 2 matches that were announced, and then everything else was kind of like ad lib. And that's what I feel that all the pay-per-views should be outside 5 pay-per-views. No. Elimination Chamber should be like 2 Elimination Chambers, and then and then Fastlane should be maybe like the world title on the line, or more importantly. So let me ask you this, and I'd be fine with that. I still pay the $9.99 a month because we're not having to sell pay-per-views anymore. You're selling the network. It's $10. I get it. It's $10 a month. It's not it's not a huge expense, but you have to remember they're trying to sell the network. They're not gonna they're gonna use that show like there's like a. Like they're like on the road, like they're like driving. I forget. I know what you're talking about. Where they put the camera in the car. It's like a road trip type of thing. Like they're going from venue to venue. I mean, they're adding so much content. They want to make sure they give their fans, good bang for the buck. I don't feel ripped off. I haven't felt ripped off since getting the network, and I'm very surprised. Here's the thing. I was one of the skeptics. Here's the difference, though. Here's the difference. The difference between you and a lot of wrestling fans. Not all wrestling fans are going back to watching Nitro in 1997 like you do. No, I understand that. And for the most part, I only really watch the pay-per-views. I would watch these events. They would be pay-per-views, but they wouldn't have to be... I mean, let's see. We already got rid of the pyro. So we already are keeping the same set. We know that. So just make them a house show with Brock Lesnar versus, Roman Reigns or whatever, a special attraction. And then the rest of it being... Roadblock. To me, Roadblock felt more like a pay-per-view than the middle pay-per-view between WrestleMania was that month. It felt more like a special attraction. It was on a Saturday night, I remember. Like I said, Dean Ambrose versus Triple H, Brock Lesnar versus Bray Wyatt, and then the rest was Enzo Amore and Cass were on there before, they were on the main show. It wasn't at the it was in Toronto, but it wasn't at the Air Canada Center. It was at their AHL minor league hockey arena, which fits about 8,000 or 9,000. So it was jam-packed. A much more raucous crowd. It had the house show set, so it had more of, you were focused on the matches, less on the presentation. And like I said, you had 2 hyped up big matches, and then the rest was kind of like fun, and it wasn't long. So, it wasn't like fun for 2.5 hours. It was like an hour of nonsense, and then 2 main events, and then you're out of there. And the people there, and the tickets went for them. We obviously saw what people paid to go see, Raw at the Manhattan Center. And that was 18 minutes of garbage. That was a bust. Yeah. Yes. So that's the point I guess I'm trying to get at is that I don't feel that ticket sales would be any less. I feel if you go to a smaller arena, you might get 10,000 at a 10,000 arena better than you're gonna get 20,000 at 10,000 at a 20,000 arena. Now they're having trouble with attendance, and when you have these kind of more hyped up, I feel Roadblock was, and I remember looking into the tickets. Roadblock at the Ricoh Coliseum, which is a smaller venue, was a much more expensive ticket than that pay-per-view, the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view was, because it felt more special, it felt more intimate.
Well,
Same reason why the Manhattan
less
Center
capacity.
Yeah, the Manhattan Center was a better. So have these little specials. Saturday main event. Saturday main event might have been a harder ticket to get back in the day, than a Monday Night Raw. So I feel that the Saturday main event concept. That's what should it be.
I get what you're saying, but to me, you gotta give the average WWE fan bang for their buck. That's what people want. They don't want less for money.
I want less quantity if it means more quality.
Yeah, but
Wrestle Kingdom was 8 matches. WrestleMania is normally like 15 matches. They were both the same length, but Wrestle Kingdom's matches were all quality.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Not a lot of WWE fans. I'm not saying all.
I'm not trying to compare the two, but it's just a small analogy of if I would rather a 35-minute main event and then a bunch of filler matches, because most of the matches on regular pay-per-views I'm not that interested in. We're really only interested in the main events, so I'd rather be interested in a more hyped up, good, maybe an Iron Man main event.
You would watch like 8 matches that are 45 minutes long, instead of maybe an average of 20 minutes for 16 matches.
Well, that's not how WrestleMania normally. WrestleMania is like 15 matches. Some are 6 minutes.
I'm just throwing numbers out.
I would rather see a pay-per-view card with 4 matches, 2 and then 2 good hyped up main events, than with 7 to 8 matches and everything's maybe the main event's okay, but everything else is kind of.
Here's what I'll propose to you then.
That's why we love Royal Rumble, because it was a 4-hour pay-per-view. But 2 hours of it was quality, was the Royal Rumble that we wanted. If you told me you can either get 3 hours of non-Royal Rumble or just the Royal Rumble for 1 hour, I would have rather taken the Royal Rumble, because that's quality versus quantity.
Let me throw this at you. I get what you're saying with the quantity versus quality. I get that. But there's a mass quantity of quality talents.
That's what they said when they moved Raw to 3 hours. That we were going to get all these amazing matches, but instead we just got a bunch of.
We've been having good matches, though. I mean, okay. I mean, and not to get too far off, but we forgot to mention this. We were talking off the air about it. But how it was supposed to be a filler, but Braun Strowman with the what was it? Is it the cello? Is that what that was?
Yes.
I'm not a
very large
expert.
cello.
It looked like a guitar for him because he's such a big guy.
It looked like he was playing an elephant, a guitar. It looked like he was playing a bear.
And it was funny because he was really he was going after Elias in that match. But
you know what I find kind of funny? You're talking about
in this segment.
We've had an Iron Man match on Raw and SmackDown in the past, but we haven't had an Iron Man match on Raw or SmackDown, more importantly on Raw, since it's become 3 hours. So we at one time had Chris Benoit versus Triple H in an Iron Man match on Monday Night Raw when it was only 2 hours, and now that it's 3 hours, we haven't had any Iron Man matches. I'm not saying you should throw them around, but I'm just saying it's just weird. It's been 5 years now.
Now to your point, I know how you like the quality over the quantity. Maybe every so often you throw in an Iron Man match here and there. Just to spice things up. I think that's cool because yes, you knock out 1 hour and then you got 2 hours of most of your talent, so to speak.
Here's where I'd be on board with everything dual branded, is the sense of that you don't throw out, maybe for example, if Backlash is dual branded, you might throw out 4 SmackDown matches, but maybe the main AJ Styles doesn't defend the belt at that one, and then he does defend the belt at the next one. So you still keep the belt every other pay-per-view, so you don't have 2 championships every 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, I would not. I would not do it. I mean, that's the thing.
Maybe throw AJ Styles in a tag team match or something if he's still the champion, and then if Roman Reigns is champion, then he'll defend the belt. Next pay-per-view, Roman Reigns, maybe not even on the card.
Alternate.
Yeah.
I like the alternate. That's fine. If they're going to do it
I do like the dual
fine.
branded, because then you might have better quality in the sense
you're going to have
to earn your pay-per-view spot versus instead of just
Oh yeah, we got to fill time, so you could go ahead.
Yeah, and we have a whole Smackdown versus roster, but this is a Raw pay-per-view, so if you're, we have to fill time.
Mojo and Fandango, we need time.
That's why the Royal Rumble worked with Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss not defending the belt at all, because everyone's on that show. Now, if that was a Raw pay-per-view and Alexa Bliss didn't defend the belt, you'd be sitting there going like, well, what else you got to keep us interested?
True.
All right, so it is now time for our tweets of the week. Our tweet of the week, we'll start with you, Brandon. What is your tweet of the week?
All right, so my tweet's very simple. It's from...
WWE creator humorish?
No.
What do we got here?
No.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, this is different this week. It's from Seth Rollins. So it was just a simple word. History. And it was regarding the decision that Kurt Angle made. The double finish? It was a double finish. He said it was history. He said WWE says this. #RawGM Kurt Angle has decided that both Rollins and Finn Balor will enter the men's Elimination Chamber match. #WWE Chamber, and he just puts history. I love it. I think it was a great finish, because there's no way you can put one of those guys. You can't keep one of those guys out.
All right, so I'm gonna move. We started to get a little clip. I'm gonna try to play it here. My tweet of the week. I found this kind of randomly. I had a tweet of the week set aside, and I saw this. Brian the Guppy at Brian the Guppy puts this out. It's a fan video. It's Sami Zayn on SmackDown. I don't know if this was after his match, before his match. It's kind of dark, so it looks like it might even been during Kevin Owens' entrance or something. He's over by the barricade, and he's yelling at a fan. And when he's yelling at a fan, somebody else comes up, because the row seems pretty empty, and tries taking a selfie with him. And he was not too happy about that. Let's see if we can. So right now he's yelling at the fan in this video. Somebody comes over to take a selfie. And he's saying, "Don't take a picture of me without asking." And he yells at the fan. He turns, who's trying to take a selfie with him while he's yelling, and starts yelling at this girl, "Don't you take a selfie with me or a picture of me without asking." And then he turns and goes back towards the rings. This is on behind the announce table side. So I'm thinking it was during Kevin Owens' entrance. Maybe he already came out. So Sami Zayn losing it on a fan. Try to upload the video as best as I can to our YouTube page so you can see it. But either way, we'll tweet out the clip.
Here's
so you
my
can check
thing.
this out.
Here's my thing, though. I haven't seen that. I mean, I just hearing the audio. Just kind of hearing the play-by-play of it. I think it's more of a work than anything.
He's trying to stay in character, which is great. I love it.
I think that's what it is. To me, I don't read too much into it about these fan interactions. I think it's different if he's at the bar having a drink with the guys, then it's different. Like, if you run up to, Randy Orton at the gym and he's, if
you come up to Randy Orton at the gym, though, he is probably not, he's going to take a selfie with you probably less there, because we've heard the stories. In fact, yes. I think people have interrupted him before and he's gone off on them.
Let him, and Randy even said, after you see me that I'm done working out, I will happily take a picture with you, no problem. But if I'm in my zone, let me do my thing and finish it up. So for me, he's in character. To me, there's not much to make of it. I think it's just
we had this conversation about, it was a poll, I think, last week about keeping kayfabe, and I like it. If it is a work, it's great. I mean, obviously, if it's not a work, then he's a jerk. That's awful. But if it is a work, that's great. I mean, because if the cameras weren't on him. So a lot of times when the cameras aren't on them, a lot of times they break character. Even if they're out there. I mean, we saw, Baron Corbin break character before, which is fine to some extent. If there's a little kid crying or something like that, Baron Corbin went over and consoled a kid one time. But in the sense of just because the camera's not on you doesn't mean, I like that he still was in character, because you're still at the show.
In this day and age, everybody has a phone. So no matter what, even if the WWE cameras are on you, you don't think some kid or somebody's got their phone out, just looking at Sami Zayn? You got to remember, just in radio, it's you got to assume if you're in a studio and you got a microphone, you always want to assume it's hot. Simple as that.
So that's going to end this hot edition of Heel to the Face for yet another week, as we are so close to the Elimination Chamber. That'll be 1 week from this Sunday. The Elimination Chamber coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. We will see you next time on the Heel to the Face podcast. For Brandon Icebreaker Clements, for myself, Jared Wicks, and don't forget to follow the program on Twitter at Heel to the Face. This has been the Heel to the Face podcast on Sports War Radio, Rat Pack Radio, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and watching in beautiful Living Color on YouTube.